Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So in this video we are going to be reviewing Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Now watching this film 15 years later has really made me realise that it's an absolute masterpiece and is now my favourite Star Wars film ever created in all of the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. I just love how it completely repositions your perspective of this ruthless villain into one where you actually view the character as a bit of a tragic victim. Just so clever how they did that, as this character was just totally manipulated, totally seduced and just completely destroyed by the Emperor character, or the devil as George Lucas referred to him as he really made Anakin Skywalker kind of feel alone, feel abandoned, and kind of felt like he has no other option other than to join the Emperor with his kind of mission. So I just feel like, you know, for all of those reasons, it's just such a clever film, very Shakespearean, very tragic, very character driven, and on top of all of those reasons, I feel like it really nicely connects with episodes 4, 5 and 6 as well, and kind of naturally slots in with those films, and not in a kind of forced way, but a bit of a natural way. So, you know, for all of those reasons, I just feel like it's such a brilliant film. Really frustrating as well, actually, that they didn't kind of revisit this character in the sequel trilogy. You know, they kind of explored the character a lot in the prequel trilogy, which was really, really cool. Kind of earned the right to have such a brilliant film and kind of really explore the degradation of this character. It just would have been nice to kind of see him in a bit of a flashback scene, kind of talking to the next generation in the sequel trilogy. But, you know, that's a conversation for another day. In terms of this review, let's talk about Revenge of the Sith and why it's my favourite film and why it's such a brilliant Star Wars movie. So the storyline of this film is literally so gripping, a little bit Shakespearean, like I said before. You know, Anakin Skywalker does have a bit of a Hamlet tragic victim vibe to him, in the sense that, you know, Palpatine was just manipulating and controlling and just puppeteering all of the great fall that this character has, which is just so tragic and just very Shakespearean from that point of view as well. And, you know, even more so because you kind of know what's happening in the future with the future installments of what's going to happen to the character. It's just so gripping to kind of just see the characters kind of fall from grace. So it starts off in a very epic way, like all the Star Wars films do, in a bit of a chase sequence across space with Anakin Skywalker and ObiWan Kenobi ironically saving Palpatine from Count Dooku. And it's actually really, really funny. I feel like, you know, these two characters are now really established. They've got great banter between the two of them, really funny, respect for each other, and just the two characters are just hilarious. And then R2-D2 was in the mix as well, who was just such a boss, by the way, in the opening sequence. Absolutely brilliant. So these three kind of characters are trying to save Palpatine from the Druid army, from Count Dooku, and that scene is just really, really intense as well in terms of the lightsaber battle. It's really, really cool. And then while Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of unconscious, you kind of see the Emperor character vibe within Palpatine in terms of really pushing him and controlling him to channel his inner dark side and kind of kill Count Dooku. So that was a bit of a shocking way to open the film, and then kind of telling him to just leave Obi-Wan Kenobi there and then just leave as them two. But obviously Anakin Skywalker has a lot of respect and has this brotherly relationship now with Obi-Wan Kenobi, so he does actually rescue him. So, you know, even just from the beginning, you can kind of see the fall from grace for the Anakin Skywalker character. So that was a brilliant way to kind of start the film off. We then find out that Padme is pregnant, and Anakin is very excited at first to kind of have a child, but then Anakin's kind of excitement towards having a child with Padme quickly turns into fear and paranoia when he begins to have nightmares about Padme kind of dying in childbirth, and that kind of slowly begins the degradation of his character. I know it's never been revealed in the movie, but I kind of have a sneaky suspicion that Palpatine kind of put these nightmare thoughts into Anakin's mind, as that really was the kind of main driver towards him becoming Darth Vader's character. So I just feel like, you know, even right from the beginning, Palpatine was kind of puppeteering and manipulating Anakin towards going towards the dark side through his relationship with Padme. Palpatine then appoints Anakin as his representative on the Jedi Council, and Anakin kind of gets what he really, really wanted, which was to be part of the Jedi group, part of the Jedi Council, and assumed that if he's going to be part of the Jedi Council, then he'll increase his rank to becoming Jedi Master. However, the Council decide not to make Anakin a Master, which kind of fills him up with rage and frustration as he kind of feels that he should have the right towards this. He's part of the council and is going to be the only one that's on the council, but is not going to be at the level of master, which is understandable in terms of, you know, he is still kind of new towards being a Jedi, so doesn't deserve master just yet. But then at the same time, you can kind of feel his frustration in terms of he feels like he's being held back, he's kind of feeling a bit disrespected, and he's already a bit of a angry type of character, so you can understand why he's getting a bit frustrated by that. Obi-Wan Kenobi does tell him, look, you will eventually get to the master stage, but he's just filled with this frustration, and it's never revealed in the movie, but if you read the novel that goes alongside the movie, then you understand that he wanted to be a Jedi Master, as then he's going to be able to get a hold of the Jedi texts, and in there he might be able to see something that is going to be able to save Padme. So that was why Anakin was getting really annoyed at the rejection, so to speak, in terms of him not being a master. At the same time, Palpatine kind of confuses and seduces Anakin even more by telling him that on the Sith side, there is something that he can use to save Padme from her potential childbirth death. So he's kind of becoming a bit more seduced towards becoming on the dark side, but his kind of Jedi side alerts him that, okay, Palpatine might be the person that is the Sith Lord, so he goes to the Jedi Council and tells them about this. Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi are on other missions, which we'll talk about in a minute, so Mace Windu is the only person available. So he goes to Mace Windu and explains to him, look, I think Palpatine is actually the Sith Lord. Mace Windu then thanks Anakin Skywalker for this information and tells him, look, you wait at the Jedi Council Bay, and me and a couple of the other Jedi are then going to face Palpatine and see if he really is the Sith Lord. Anakin can't really wait around, so he kind of follows them, and while he's doing that, Mace Windu kind of confronts the Sith Lord and realizes that he is kind of the Sith Lord. And then he has a bit of a battle sequence with lightsabers, which is really, really cool, kind of seeing Mace Windu with his Jedi army against Palpatine. Palpatine kind of surprises them and then destroys all of the other Jedis apart from Mace Windu. And it's really funny actually, because you can tell that the actor is just really uncomfortable having these lightsaber battle sequences. But, you know, credit where credit due, he does do a good job. And then he kind of has a bit of a situation where Mace Windu is almost going to kill Palpatine, but then Palpatine kind of manipulates Anakin, who kind of then suddenly enters the room, and Anakin is clearly really conflicted in terms of wanting to be on the Jedi side and help Mace Windu, but then knows that Palpatine is the only person that can save Padme, well, at least what Palpatine has manipulated Anakin into thinking. So you can tell that he's really, really conflicted at this stage, and when Mace Windu is going to try and kill Palpatine, then he just kind of inadvertently leads to the death of Mace Windu, and then is just like so tragically riddled with guilt, and he says, you know, what have I done? And he's just kind of in a bit of a mind haze in terms of not knowing what to do and feeling super, super confused. And at the same time, Palpatine's face is kind of becoming his real face. I know there's a lot of debate in terms of, did the Force lightning do that? In my opinion, I feel like the face that you see after the Mace Windu battle was always Palpatine's face, because he's kind of experimented so much with Sith magic that this has become his new face, and he kind of always had a Force mask on, but you know, that's a debate for another day. In terms of what happens next, I always felt like this bit was a little bit rushed, because suddenly, you know, the Anakin Skywalker character just totally flips to the dark side and is now killing all of the Jedi, killing all of the children, which is incredibly heartbreaking, by the way. So I just feel like that kind of flip in terms of him being riddled with guilt to now being Palpatine's kind of second in command, I just feel like that was a bit of a rushed movement. Again, I know that he's riddled with guilt and all of this sort of stuff, but just how he's suddenly going to flip all of that and is now going to do all of the bidding for Palpatine, killing loads of other people, including children. I just feel like they should have just explored that storyline bit a little bit more, as it's just really, really sudden. But you know, it does go in line with the fall from grace for his character, and really does kind of cement his side in terms of destroying the Anakin Skywalker character and giving birth to the Darth Vader character. So while all of that is going on, Obi-Wan Kenobi is on a different mission, which is trying to settle the score with General Grievous, and he kind of goes into a new planet and has all the really cool battle sequences. the one of Obi-Wan Kenobi against General Grievous is absolutely brilliant, as General Grievous has 4 lightsabers against Obi-Wan Kenobi with 1 lightsaber, and it really demonstrates what a brilliant fighter Obi-Wan Kenobi is on the Jedi side in terms of whether or not he can beat General Grievous in terms of using lightsabers or using guns. So that was a really, really cool little battle sequence. And Obi-Wan Kenobi is as hilarious as ever with his little one-liners, his little alien dinosaur creature that he's riding on. So that was really, really cool. And then whilst that's kind of coming to an end, then Palpatine gives the issuing of Order 66, which is a very Winter Soldier type vibe in terms of loads of people that the Jedis were trusting then kind of turn their back on them and then end up killing all of the Jedis. So that was just absolutely insane. The clone army that Palpatine was kind of puppeteering as well were kind of turning on all of these Jedis, and they're just incredibly emotional, incredibly tragic, incredibly powerful in terms of the fall of the entire Jedi army and the rise of the Sith army. So that was just absolutely kind of chilling, very Winter Soldier vibes in terms of you really feel sorry for all of these Jedi that are in this situation that kind of feel like their army is now turning on them and kind of killing them. So just incredibly crazy. Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi somehow managed to survive this crazy situation and go back to their base, and that's where they find out that actually Anakin Skywalker was the one that was responsible for a lot of the Jedi falling in their base home and for a lot of the kids that were brutally slaughtered as well. I feel like this is another bit that was a little bit rushed in terms of Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of views this on their little viewing globe and kind of sees all of this stuff happening with Anakin Skywalker, and he doesn't really have much of a reaction. He's like a brother figure, a master Jedi figure to this character, and you don't really see much emotion coming out of him. Obviously that's kind of really explored right at the end in Mustafar when these two characters are battling, and then he's kind of pouring his heart out in terms of telling him, you were the chosen one, you were the one that was supposed to bring balance to the Force, etc. But I just feel like in that moment when he's kind of seeing this on the viewing globe, he doesn't really have much of a reaction. Anakin Skywalker is then going on an absolute rampage and is slaughtering anyone and everyone that is going to stand in the way of him and the Emperor's defeat. So Padme and Obi-Wan Kenobi track down that Anakin is on the lava planet of Mustafar, so travel over there and try to reason with him and try to convince him that, look, what you're doing is absolutely wrong, and try to come back to the light side. But Anakin is just having none of it, and he's just been so brainwashed that he just kind of sees these guys as his enemies now. So it's really, really emotional in terms of him and Padme seeing and how he's just completely rejecting her help. And then we just have the absolute epic lightsaber battle sequence to end all lightsaber battle sequences between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. This has kind of really been built up over the last few films in terms of the relationship between the two of them. So in terms of all of the other lightsaber battles sequences, this is the one that really means a lot, as you can really feel the differences that these two characters are coming from and all of their history and everything. So it just means so much. And then on top of that, it just visually just looks absolutely epic, very, very grand, with the whole lava sequence in the background and all of the different sequences that these two are kind of going through. They're both masters in their own right, very, very powerful, strong characters. So not only does it mean a lot, but it just visually just looks absolutely incredible. And then at the same time, Yoda and Palpatine are having their own little battle sequence. And this is where you really see the demonic, crazy side of the Palpatine character, as he's thinking that he's just defeating Yoda and is just not caring and is just like, you know, really exacting his like plan of just like manipulating the whole situation, and now he's gonna know that he's gonna be on top and is just destroying everything. So that's just an absolutely crazy sequence. And then we have the final sequence between Anakin and Obi-Wan, which is just incredibly emotional, where Obi-Wan finally has the higher ground and defeats Anakin, and that is really the moment that everyone's been waiting for in terms of the real death of the Anakin Skywalker character and the birth of the Darth Vader character, and how he's just screaming that he hates Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is just telling him how disappointed he is in all of the decisions that Anakin has made and all of these situations that Anakin has now led himself into, and how he should have been the chosen one and how he should have brought balance to the Force, and how he's now caused the destruction of the Jedi army and the rise of the Emperor army. So it's just a really incredibly powerful and emotional scene, and just to kind of really begins the end of the third movie in a really kind of hopeless, emotional and tragic way. We then have a series of sequences that really links together episodes 3 and episodes 4, such as the birth of Leia and Luke, the birth of Darth Vader, the death of Padme, and it's never revealed in the film, but there are loads of theories, the necklace theory, that Palpatine had a bit of Sith sorcery on the necklace of Padme, which caused the death of this character, as he knew that this is what was going to happen, and he was the one that told Darth Vader, no, you were the one that killed her, and then he has that really demonic, evil kind of grin and smirk in the background as Darth Vader is screaming no. So I just feel like Palpatine, as he was puppeteering and manipulating and controlling everything else, may well have had a cause in the death of Padme, which really cemented Darth Vader's kind of chosen view to stay on the dark side. So I feel like, you know, Palpatine definitely had a part to play with that as well. We then have the exile of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, kind of the last Jedi's alive, kind of going into exile and then hopefully coming back up to help Luke kind of bring balance to the Force. And then we also have that final sequence of Darth Vader and the Emperor overseeing the creation of the new Death Star. So I just feel like that film really does link well together to episode 4, as they're going to have their new kind of reigning supreme, and Darth Vader is going to be in his prime alongside the Emperor, and then it's just going to cause the uprising of the Empire. So I just feel like, you know, from a storyline point of view, very powerful for Revenge of the Sith. Even the name Revenge of the Sith is what was going to be the name of episode 6, but they brought that here in episode 3. So, you know, I just feel like the storyline in this film is just very powerful, very character driven, very emotional, and it just really earns the right to kind of show the degradation of the character from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, and was just incredibly powerful. From a characters and actors point of view, I feel like this movie is so strong. It's so character driven. You know, they really built up all of these characters over the last few films, and in this film just really exploded it and just made it just so powerful from a character driven point of view. And I feel like the actors just did such a good job in bringing it all to life. I feel like Hayden Christensen was absolutely brilliant as Anakin Skywalker. You can really see his fall from grace from kind of the Anakin Skywalker character to the Darth Vader character, somebody who kind of felt held back and betrayed by the Jedi, which was just totally manipulated by Palpatine in terms of telling him that the Jedi don't really care about him, and that the Sith way is the way that he can kind of have Padme back. And just all of those reasons, you can just really see how this character was totally manipulated. Loads of scenarios where it's like, oh, if only this had happened, if only he was with Obi-Wan Kenobi, if only the Jedi had given him the rank of Jedi Master, if only he didn't do this with Mace Windu. So many bits that you can really feel like, oh, if only this character didn't do this, then this could have happened, which was just brilliantly portrayed by Hayden Christensen in this film. So I just feel like, you know, the Anakin Skywalker character was just done so well in terms of A, seeing his fall from grace, but B, kind of seeing how he became the Darth Vader character and how he kind of went from the light side to the dark side. So that was just so brilliantly communicated in this film. Similarly, Ewan McGregor was so good as Obi-Wan Kenobi, very witty, very funny, very brave, very heroic, kind of showing the flip side to Anakin Skywalker's character in terms of having the total view of kind of like the good side, very brave, very funny as well, had brilliant one-liners like he did with in the second film in Attack of the Clones. Here he has some brilliant one-liners as well, and brilliantly delivered, and a brilliant performance by Ewan McGregor as the Obi-Wan Kenobi character. I always said that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker are the best two characters in the Star Wars franchise, and I just feel like in this film the two characters went on a great journey, and also when the two storylines collided in such an explosive way, it just meant that was just so heartbreaking. The final scene in Mustafar where Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of giving his speech of disappointment to Anakin Skywalker, and then kind of seeing the Anakin Skywalker character becoming Darth Vader. It was just very, very powerful from a character-driven point of view in this film. We then have Ian McDiarmid arguably playing the most evil character ever created, you know, puppeteering this whole thing, playing the long game, playing the game like everyone's a bit of a chess piece, and is just puppeteering the whole thing, kind of causing the destruction of the Jedi, stealing Anakin, destroying his and everyone's world, and just rising the rank to becoming this ultimate emperor. So, you know, definitely playing the long game and just really manipulating and destroying all of these different characters' kind of lives, worlds, galaxy, everything. This character was just truly evil, and you could really see how demonic he was in this film as well. I feel like, you know, the character in all of the other Star Wars films really was kind of a background character, kind of always puppeteering and being the mastermind behind everything. But here you can really see great character development in terms of how he became that character, how he thinks, how ruthless he is, how much he just doesn't really care at all, how he's always manipulating, destroying, brainwashing as well. Just a really true epitome of an evil character, which is exactly what the producers and directors wanted everyone to think about. So from that point of view, you know, that character definitely was communicated in that way. We then have Natalie Portman, who is playing Padme in this movie, and you can really feel her heart breaking with all of the things that Anakin is saying to her, and when kind of the whole world is going into war, which is obviously not something that she wanted, especially when she was Queen Armadillo. So it's just really, really cool in terms of this character's portrayal. And, you know, like I said before, she's been here in all of the other prequel movies, so you can really feel the jeopardy and extent to how disappointed this character is. So I feel like Natalie Portman did a really, really good job with that. We then have R2-D2, who, like I said before, was such a boss in this film. Super cool, super reliable, super funny as well. Even though he's got no speaking lines, you can just really feel the humor coming from him. And especially, like I said before, in the beginning opening scene, how he kind of caused the fire and destroyed all these droids that were robots that were going to destroy him. So I feel like he was really, really cool. C-3PO, not that big of a character in this film, a bit more of a background character. Really sad right at the end that they wiped his mind clean, so he's got no memory of episodes 1, 2 and 3. Mace Windu, a really, really cool character. I feel like Samuel L. Jackson really stepped up to the plate in this film in terms of having really, really cool lightsaber battle sequences and just really being the Jedi Master that he needs to be as part of the Jedi Council. And then really shocking scene with Palpatine and Anakin Skywalker, no pun intended. And you know, that scene really was the start of the fall from grace for the Hayden Christian Anakin Skywalker character. And then we have Yoda, the master of all wisdom. Absolutely brilliant character. Again, loved all of the battle sequences that the Yoda character was having in this movie. That was really, really cool to see. Really wise character, telling everyone that he needs to now go into exile, which is really sad as well. So, you know, this movie was really destructive, but equally from a character point of view, just led it so strongly, so well. So for all of those reasons, I just feel like the characters did such a good job and the actors did such a good job in this movie. We then have Count Dooku, who wasn't in this film for that long, but the short time that he was in the film, he did definitely make an impact. You know, he was part of the battle sequence with Anakin Skywalker, where Anakin had 2 lightsabers, which is really, really cool. He kind of caused ObiWan Kenobi to kind of go unconscious, which is really, really powerful. But the most powerful scene was between Count Dooku, Palpatine, and Anakin Skywalker, where Palpatine is kind of pushing Anakin Skywalker to kill Count Dooku, who at the time was Palpatine's kind of apprentice, and then like his master is telling Anakin to kind of behead him. So that was just really chilling, really powerful, kind of shows just how ruthless the Palpatine character is, kind of starting the fall from grace from Anakin Skywalker's perspective as well. And really nice flashback to when Palpatine was kind of pushing Luke Skywalker to kill Darth Vader's character. So a really interesting throwback from that point of view as well. From a visuals point of view, this movie is absolutely spectacular. It's the last one as part of the prequel trilogy, so in terms of those movies, it's definitely the strongest one. It looks absolutely epic. In terms of the original trilogy, it's definitely the strongest one. In terms of the sequel trilogy, obviously the sequel trilogy are a lot more recent, so they do look a lot stronger. But that being said, you know, Revenge of the Sith is a beautifully, visually strong movie. Not beautiful in the sense of Attack of the Clones, in terms of all of the beautiful places that Padme and Anakin Skywalker go to. But in terms of visually being a masterpiece, it looks absolutely incredible. All of the planets look really, really cool, especially Planet Mustafar, where you have the explosive destruction lava backdrop in terms of really being poetic to the destruction of the Anakin Skywalker character, and then kind of having ObiWan Kenobi kind of overseeing that. That was really, really cool. All of the space sequences look really, really cool. All of the battle sequences look really, really cool. All of the scenes where the Jedi are being betrayed through Order 66 was absolutely awesome. And then all of the lightsaber duels in this movie are absolutely brilliant as well. I count 5 main lightsaber battles, which are really, really cool. The Mace Windu and Palpatine battle with all of the Force lightning and leading to the real face of Palpatine being shown is really, really cool. The Anakin Skywalker, ObiWan Kenobi and Count Dooku battle, which led to Anakin Skywalker having 2 lightsabers, looked really, really cool. The Palpatine and Yoda lightsaber battle looked absolutely awesome as well, especially seeing the demonic, crazy side of the Palpatine character as well. We then have the Count Grievous and ObiWan Kenobi against General Grievous, That battle sequence was really, really cool in terms of General Grievous having 4 lightsabers, was absolutely wicked. And then the main battle of Anakin Skywalker and ObiWan Kenobi, their non-stop lightsaber duel, which just looked absolutely magnificent across loads of different locations. Truly visual masterpiece. I feel like out of all of the movies, that lightsaber battle sequence was definitely the best one. So for all of those reasons, I just feel like from a visual point of view, this movie is incredibly strong. In terms of comparisons, after watching all of the movies, standalone movies and sequential movies within this episodic 9-part series, I do feel like Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith is definitely the best one. So epic, so character driven and so Shakespearean. It's just such a shame that this movie doesn't get more credit, as it's just such a powerful movie, such a great example of how to do a trilogy properly, a real great example as well of how to do character driven films properly as well. As you can really see the explosive nature of the Anakin Skywalker character, ObiWan Kenobi equally being really, really brilliant in this film, and Padme as well having an incredibly evil villain in Palpatine, kind of puppeteering the whole thing. Yoda as well, Mace Windu, brilliant characters, brilliant visuals, brilliant storyline, brilliant actors. Everything about this film is just really, really cool, and that is why I just feel like it's the strongest Star Wars movie contender. Overall, I'm sure it will come as no surprise that I thoroughly enjoyed Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. I feel like it was a perfect conclusion for the 3-part prequel trilogy, as well as the 6-part original trilogy and prequel trilogy. I feel like it concluded all of those stories really, really nicely and kind of linked everything together and was just the perfect kind of brilliant conclusion to that mini-series. It's a real disappointment that kind of Anakin Skywalker and ObiWan Kenobi weren't kind of bigger players within the sequel trilogy. You know, they definitely had their time in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. It just would have been nice to kind of see a bit more respect happening for these 2 legendary characters in the sequel trilogy. It's really nice having Palpatine kind of coming back in and still seeing him being the character that's kind of puppeteering everything, manipulating everything from the background, and then kind of having scenes with Rey as well. So, you know, from that point of view, it's really, really cool. But I just feel like, you know, Revenge of the Sith had a brilliant story, brilliant characters, and really showed how to do a series properly. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. I wasn't bored at any point. If anything, I was just on the edge of my seat throughout this entire movie. And if you haven't seen this film, I'd highly recommend seeing it, as it's a brilliant film to watch, just from like a film watching point of view, as well as kind of from a Star Wars fanboy point of view. So I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.